Finally here, folks. 2017 season rolls on again, and we're here to preview it, and I'll hand you over to our inimitable host, Peter J. How are you, Pete?
Good, mate. Is that even a word? I'm not sure.
Inimitable?
Anyway, it sounded positive and it sounded nice, so I'm going to let it stand.
Unable to be imitated. Inimitable?
Unable to be imitated. Love it. Thanks very much. Welcome, everybody, and welcome, of course, to the Adelaide CrowCast. It's the Tuesday night live edition. We're very, very happy to have you all with us, and we're also very happy to be finally talking about the upcoming 2017 season. Very, very exciting times. Sorry?
Are we what?
We certainly are. That's the voice of Phoenix, obviously, you can hear there. Macca and Nikki, good evening as well. How are we all?
Evening, all. Pete.
Great to have you all with us, and great to have you all able to get on board tonight and have a chat about the season upcoming. And don't forget to get onto our chat as well, everybody. If you want to say something and or ask a question, we're happy to hear from you all. All right, we'll push along now with our first segment of the night, which, as always, is Nikki's News.
At some stage, Phoenix, you're going to get the happy medium between too quick and too fast.
I'm really not.
I mean, too quick and too fast. too slow.
Too quick and too fast. Yeah, that's always been my problem.
Oh, yeah. My brain's a bit fuzzy today, so this ought to prove interesting. First up, we'll just get the housekeeping out of the way. There have been a couple of upgrades for rookies onto the senior list. West Coast have officially put Nick Nat on the long-term injury list, which means Drew Petrie has been upgraded.
And will be named, apparently.
Yeah. Well, normally you don't upgrade somebody from the rookie list unless you're going to actually name them on the weekend, because it kind of helps your salary cap if they're still on the rookie pay and not on a official AFL player. Well, it's still official, but salary. Which also proves to be quite interesting because Danny Houston and Brett Eddy have been upgraded by Port as well. So that seems... We'd heard rumblings that Houston was likely to be around, but Eddy was a bit interesting, but they have some serious woes in their forward line.
Makes me laugh that their best forward is a rookie draft SANFL mature age player.
Who is a very good forward. It's just his kicking can be interesting at times. As a South Adelaide supporter, sometimes he gets them, sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah.
And there was another one, I think Collingwood upgraded one, which then leads into some interesting happenings regarding Jordan De Goey on the weekend. He obviously decided he really liked his teammate's story about how he broke his hand, and so he thought he'd utilise the same story, but change it just a little bit, instead of admitting that he got in a fight in a bar on the Friday night and broke his hand.
Yeah, when Buckley came out and publicly used what he was given, throwing a frisbee with a dog and hit your hand on something or other.
On the door.
On the door. Nobody could believe that story. Nobody. And
even Buckley couldn't believe it.
well, for him to come out and he said that to the public.
Yeah,
you can only go by what the dickhead said to him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I would have said, he's told me this. I don't know what really happened.
Yeah, he did preface it by saying, you may find this difficult to believe.
I think he did say that. Well,
yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
And how right he was. I don't think anybody believed it.
No, because a lot of the discussion on the Monday night was everybody going, nah, he didn't break it playing with his dog. The other interesting thing about this, I thought, was the way that the Collingwood leadership group actually handled it. So he has, I'm trying to remember how much it is it a $3,000 fine or a $5,000? He's got a $5,000 fine. He has to do 10 weeks of community service, and his 3-match suspension will start once his hand has healed. Port Adelaide, you might want to take notice of that. That's how you actually punish a player properly.
Well, yeah, I think that is appropriate punishment. You're talking obviously about Cracker.
Yeah.
But they want to play Cracker, of course.
Yeah, they needed to play him.
Yeah, so they didn't want to give him too much.
So what do they do with De Goey, given that he lied to the club and made Buckley look like an idiot?
Well, he did do a video. They made him do a video out to all the supporters, etc., and he looked pretty shattered in it. And he did state in there that, yes, he's lost the trust of the playing group and the club, and he will have to build that back. So they did everything right that I can see as to how it should be handled. And I think the interesting thing out from it was Nick Del Santo was on AFL Tonight, and he was asked, have you ever lied? And he admitted that in his first year, he had a small mishap of falling out of a shopping trolley one evening.
I thought you were going to talk about his picture when you said he had
No.
a small...
My mind never went there because I've never seen those images and I have no desire to look at those images.
Just look at your pinky, Nicky. You'll get the idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, she can look at the picture and still not see it.
Can I just throw something in here for discussion before we move on, I should say?
Just finish on Del Santo's stuff, Pete. He actually admitted that he lied to the club because he turned up for training on the Monday, and so he faked falling over onto that shoulder at training. That was the...
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
That was the way that he did it, which I thought was quite amusing. But he basically said that, yeah, don't lie. No matter where you are, whether you're a footballer or not, just don't lie. Just fess up.
Right, am I good to go?
You are.
I just wonder. I'm just going to put this out there. You know, we get these things. You know, these things happen. You know, these incidents happen, and you know, with the Jordan, the Hoy or whatever his name is, the Goey, with his dog, and you know, he's told a fib, and then we get this thing about he's lost the trust of the playing group. Do you really think that he's lost the trust of the playing group, or do you think that's just put out there, you know, to satisfy the AFL? And I mean, do you really think that, you know, they're walking around the change rooms at the moment saying, "Mate, we just don't trust you anymore. We can't." Do you really think that that's a real thing, or do you think it's just put out there to satisfy the AFL?
That's following the club manifesto to make sure that you're saying the right thing to the supporters. He might have lost the trust of his coach, and he might have lost the trust of some of the other officials in the club, but I don't think the players give a shit.
No, I don't think they do.
They don't.
I can't imagine, you know, like they're out at a pub in a couple of weeks' time and they say, well, actually, you know what? You can't be in our round because we don't trust you to go and buy when it's your turn.
Yeah,
it depends on what sort of trust you're talking about. If they're trusting him to actually fess up about something that he did on the weekend, then yeah, he's got form. And if your friend did something like that to you and lied about something that they did, you caught them out in that lie, and then they continue to do it, you're not going to believe them the next time, are you?
Oh, Nicky, you don't really think the players give a damn about it at all because
the leadership group would.
No, because they're all doing it, Nick. It's Nicky, a footy club. It's not a church choir. They're all just as bad as each other, and my opinion is it's all. I'm with you, Pete. It's just thrown out there for perception management and you know, political correctness, and you know, they're probably telling stories in the locker room about that one time that they lied and got away with it. Well,
you know, from experience, you know, having played footy and been in the change room, they'll all have a chuckle about it, to be quite honest.
Of course they would. Anyway, what else we got, Nick?
Sorry, we move on.
There was something else that kind of came out, but I think this might be leading into a certain rant from Macca. But in terms of hilarity, well, I find this hilarious, but it seems that Chris Scott and Geelong have come to an agreement regarding a further 3 years. So the rest of the AFL are going, yeah, thanks.
I really can't believe that.
Yeah.
Chris Scott or Brad Scott?
Chris at Geelong.
Oh, sorry, because I heard on the radio it was Brad Scott being extended for another couple of years.
Well, no, it's kind of amusing about both of them, really. But yeah, I I can't really see that would be much of a positive for Geelong in the long run, I don't think.
Well, I mean, it really exposes him, doesn't it? Because he got his success on the back of the incumbent down there.
Which he admitted he didn't coach that year.
Yeah, that's right. So, he's now under the same... Even though he's a premiership coach, I think he's now under the spotlight just like everyone else. And, ageing list and all that sort of stuff, he's probably going to be under pressure in at the back end of that contract if he doesn't get him back into a top 4 team.
Just speaking of the Scots, did anyone, and just off topic a little bit, but speaking of the Scots, did anyone hear Brad Scott, apparently, was it last night or the night before? I didn't see it, but apparently he's dumped a bucket on the Western Bulldogs season and implied that they cheated, and that they were throwers and all that kind of stuff. Did anyone hear that?
Yeah, he kind of skirted around it a little bit, but he did come straight out and say that they flickered around. And we know they flickered around. And the fact that he said that what they did in the club was they got the vision and they slowed it down to see what they were doing. And from what he kind of said about it, and it sounded like it wasn't just him, but it was a number of the other clubs actually approached the AFL and went, that's not right. Now, they then tried to whitewash over it nicely and say, but you can't really tell with the naked eye and it's really hard for the umpires. And even when you slow it down, you can't really tell that they're throwing them. I'm pretty sure that everybody in the stands who are not Bulldog supporters could point to a number of them going, we know that's a throw.
Yeah. No different to the Crows throw, though, Nick.
Well, in fact, I was going to say, Phoenix, that during the course of the season, I did hear commentators refer to their handball as being very similar to the Crow throw.
All it is not having a stationary left hand. I mean, there's nothing in the rules that says your platform hand has to be stationary. And if you're moving that hand towards the target, as long as you hit the ball off the platform of your other hand, it doesn't matter whether it's a whisker. It's a legal handball. And to me, I think it's sour grapes from the Scots, and I think it's pressure on, or trying to put pressure on the umpiring fraternity to call throws that aren't necessarily there. I don't have a problem with how they move the ball, to be honest.
Except for the fact that I think it was one of the Bulldogs' early games. It was Brian Taylor, I think, who might have been commentating. It was one of those, him or Dwayne. They're both idiots. Who actually said that the umpires are going to look a lot closer, particularly at the Bulldogs, that they are concerned. And there were a number of throws paid in that preseason game, and they said, well, this is what's going to happen. They've already said that, there were some that were not paid last year that should have been.
But there were probably some marks paid that shouldn't have been as well. I mean...
Yeah, that too.
It's sour grapes. I'm sure they threw a few. I'm sure we threw a few. I'm sure they all threw a few. No, well, I don't think so.
I watched a lot of their games.
Yeah, but you can't see if it's a two-handed motion. I mean, all you got to do is watch footage of Andrew Jarman in a pack. You could probably call 50% of his handballs throws if you wanted to be really pedantic about it. But it doesn't matter if both hands are moving, as long as the hitting hand makes contact with the ball before it leaves the platform, and 9 times out of 10 that's what happens.
Yeah, but I was going to make one point.
Needs to be in a fist and not an open palm.
Well, of course, but
which a lot of theirs were not in a fist.
Yeah, but if I can just get it in, to be a
Sorry, how did that go?
To be a legal handball, you're quite right. You're allowed to move the bottom hand, but the hand that propels the ball must be the other hand. And I think I think that's probably what the main complaint is, that they go through the motion with the bottom hand moving and the top hand making contact with the ball, but the thing that's propelling the ball is the bottom hand, and I think that's why they're talking about a throw.
Yeah, but there's no rule against it, Macca.
What's going to happen is that the fist has got to hit the ball off the hand. Now, I think that what the Bulldogs do, what the Bulldogs do is that they effectively do a rugby throw, but what they do is that they clench their fist and they hold one side of the ball with their fist and they hold the other side of the ball with their hand and then effectively just throw it and pretend
Correct.
it's a handball.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That is the point I'm making.
Sorry, Macca.
No, you clarified it beautifully because that's the point I'm actually making. It looks like a handball, but it's not a handball.
Awesome.
Well, should we actually let Macca sharpen his knives a bit more?
Do you want to sharpen your knife, Macca?
I'm not actually doing that. I'm whittling away as I wait.
With that big band playing behind me, it's a swing deal.
Go for it, Macca.
Well, there's a strange part of
Keep going. You just got a little bit of background music there.
Okay, well...
This is culture, mate.
My real rant today is about the bloody music.
Come on, mate.
Phoenix, stop throwing him.
Straight it up. Oh, look.
In all
Fine.
seriousness...
You're going to play straighten up and fly right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my rant is about the West Coast Eagles, and it's about the 2006 Premiership. Premierships are so hard to get, and there's 18 teams now, and it's the chance of getting a Premiership is so hard. And in 2006, Adelaide Crows, we hosted West Coast Eagles at our Oval here. We were 26 points, I think it was, up at half time, and then after half time, two particular players, and they are players that have been indicated as possible drug takers. Well, we know one is, and we're talking about Kerr and Cousins. And Cousins played the most unbelievable second half. And my point really is that I don't think anybody who watched that game believed that he could have done what he did without assistance, because Van Berlo was running with him, and Van Berlo was at the peak of his running capacity, and he made him look like a ruptured elephant. He just couldn't keep anywhere near this man that just had almighty powers in that second half. And Kevin Bartlett says their premiership is tainted, the 2006 one. In fact, he said he had an asterisk against it after he's got heard the report that's just been released, which the AFL hid for 10 years, which is disgusting. And the AFL are getting shafted as well. I'm sticking a knife in their gut.
Come on, make a fire up. Come on.
That is bloody disgraceful. 10 years they've hidden the truth away from the people. We're entitled to know the truth. And as Crow supporters, the truth is we were bloody well robbed in that particular game by a team which I believe, and I can't prove it, but I think the situation that was going on with the club at the time and the fact of what the players were doing is every chance this was a drug-fueled team that beat us, and we would have gone through otherwise and won a flag. And as I said, they're so hard to get. And to me, I've never acknowledged that the 2006 flag was won by the West Coast Eagles, because I've always seen it as a tainted flag. And I'm like Kevin Bartlett, I've got a line through it. West Coast Eagles, in my opinion, you did not win the flag in 2006. That was won by drugs, and therefore doesn't count. And unfortunately, we don't get what we should have got. And that's my rant, and there's knives going everywhere. Whack, whack, whack.
That was the most insipid, tame...
Mate, you could get carved up too if you're not careful.
There was not one desk slam. There was not one time that I had to turn it down because you were getting too loud. Come on, Macca. You're better than that, mate.
Well,
You don't need to get violent like that in order for a rant to be good.
That's right. Remember the old saying, guns for show, knives for a pro. And I think that's that was well, if you've ever watched Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. But
Love
Mac,
that movie.
I think you're right on point there, and I don't think anyone here would disagree with you that that performance by Cousins in the second half, and Van Berlo had him covered in the first half, and Van Berlo at that stage of his career, as we all know, did not run out of gas.
He was a running beast.
He was a running beast, and he was interviewed after the game, and And Ben Bellet said he just didn't know, couldn't work out what happened, but all he knew is that he just couldn't go with him, and it was just a superhuman effort, and we all know what was behind it. We'll just never be able to prove it.
What annoys me about the whole thing is, Pete, is that everyone goes on about the fact that it cost Sydney a flag, and no one actually talks about the fact that half of football cost us a grand final appearance against our bunnies at the time.
Yeah.
You know, it goes further than just the grand final. The damage was done in the prelim, you know, as well as however many games beforehand, I guess. But it was tangibly noticeable in the prelim, like we've all said, and yet it's not given any regard at all in the media. And I think I would love to know what the players in that 2006 team really felt about being denied a chance at playing against Sydney in the GF.
Well, put it this way, Mark Bickley was quite happy to draw a line through it on the 5AA. He said he's in the Kevin Bartlett camp. He said he's always had the same as Bartlett. He's had a star against it. I mean, Rowe's just a bloody idiot. He just says we don't know, etc., etc. But he does nothing, so it doesn't really matter. He wouldn't know. But Mark Bickley, who's a very conservative man, said he's drawn a line through it too, and as far as he's concerned, he's not crediting West Coast Eagles with it either. And the other thing which I think is disgusting, and I think it was Mike Fitzpatrick, who was the author of Hiding the Thing for 10 years, and it never came out until he and Demetrio are both no longer there. And disgusting work by you two creatures, not good at all.
For me, what's actually quite interesting about this is if you take a step back and you have a look at who's released it, and it's the Herald Sun. And a few weeks ago, they had the recordings from the Essendon meeting. And I think in both these cases that what they're aiming to do, it seems that they're trying to have a go at the AFL, which, yes, some shit is going to stick to the AFL. But for me, what it's done is it's actually putting a lot more shit on Essendon, because it just showed in the first one exactly how much they were willing to throw the players under the bus in a way to protect Hurd, the golden boy. They had no actual real consideration for their players, no matter what they say. And now you've got Worsfold, who's the coach of Essendon, who is integral to this entire part. And I had to laugh at the headline that he now feels he can totally feel for Collingwood about how players' lives. I call absolute bullshit on that, John. I know you came out and you helped us last year, the year before, quite well, but there was no way he would not have known what was going on around his playing group, etc. And I think actually the shit's been thrown a little bit more at Essendon than it has at the AFL, so it's backfired on the Herald Sun.
Well, what I find interesting is if they did an inquiry into West Coast Eagles along the lines of what they did to Essendon in the last couple of years, or 3 years, or 4 years, or however long that bloody thing has been going, if they did the same thing at West Coast in the same intensity, it would be very, very interesting. And I think it might be that they never played again.
No, the difference is, Macca, that it was illicit drugs, and the penalties for illicit drug use are far less than performance enhancing, which is what Essendon did. I mean, irrespective of the fact that there's a ton of evidence to suggest that certain illicit drugs can be performance enhancing, it seems that once they're put in the recreational drug bucket, then they're automatically discluded from the performance enhancing bucket. But,
Raise a good point there, yeah. Incorrectly, I think, but you're right. I think that's correct. It's a very good point that I hadn't brought into account, because to me, it's still taking drugs. And as we know, people on ice, for example, are capable of anything. I mean, it costs us a coach, for example.
Yep.
All right, everyone. I think we should probably move on. We've got to about the halfway point of the show, so we probably should steer ourselves to a little bit towards our beloved Crows. I guess taking things in chronological order, we probably should have a quick chat about not necessarily a quick chat, but certainly a chat about the Women's League. I thought I saw the last half of the game on, was it Sunday? Sunday, I think it was.
Yes, it was Sunday.
Sunday, and incredibly impressive performance in that last quarter. The skills of Erin Phillips were just really quite something to see. Her goal, where she had the spatial awareness to, as she was running forward, to have a quick look, realise she had a couple of seconds, take a bounce, steady, really was some incredible skill. And of course, not forgetting Sarah Perkins with her 4 goals was an absolute... if this was men's league, I'd say she was a beast up front. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that, but I have.
No, she's a beast.
If anyone wants to take me to task on it, you can.
I'll call her a beast.
She was a beast up forward, and speaking of beasts, Ed Marinoff was also a tackling beast around the ground with about 8,000 tackles. So between those 3 players, just an extraordinary performance, and full of merit, full of skill, and full of run in that last quarter. And the girls stitched themselves up a grand final spot. And I think that we could probably also talk about the bung fight that's occurred with the grand final programming, but we probably should just focus on the performance of our girls on Sunday.
We might leave that to the Cockwomble, because I think that's got a shoe-in this week.
Yeah.
Just on that game, I was going to say that you mentioned the second half, but even the second half was really of 2 halves. The third quarter we were not travelling very well at all, but in the last quarter that was a tremendous lift by a team that wanted to win, and as you say, the players that you mentioned, they were the one. I mean, Marinoff, I just love that girl. She just goes and goes and goes, whether it's the ball or the player. I mean, she usually leads the kick count. She usually leads the tackle count. I think she's just crook-old value, and Erin Phillips. I mean, she is the classy player in the team, and it's some magic goals that she kicked. And my girl, Big Tex Perkins, up there, she's Big Tex Perkins. It's not as bad as a beast, I suppose. But,
come on, mate.
Which, incidentally, Rhiannon Metcalf's nickname is the Beast. So our ruckman's nickname is the Beast.
Okay, well, Tex Perkins, I mean, that was... I don't know, it went really sort of unnoticed. Her 4th goal was just a left footer on the run, and just kicked as normal as any you'd kick a right footer. And she's just a very, very good footballer. She's got a great football brain too.
I think that's the key with her, Macca. She is just a very intelligent footballer. She probably has more football intelligence than a few of the blokes running around in AFL, because she's just smart.
Undoubted.
She's smart. She knows how to use her body. She knows how to position herself in contest. She's extremely aggressive and competitive, and she's creative when the ball's at ground level. So she's a beauty, and I don't know how the hell she got let through through the draft. Amazing pickup.
I think in terms of the game, I think that we got sucked in the third quarter to a lot of very, very physical play from Collingwood, and it was extremely physical, and they really, really got into us. And I think that we just lost a little bit of focus because of that, and they were able to get a little bit of momentum and kick a couple of goals. And I think that the 3/4 time break was opportune for us, and we were able to steady. And I think the girls were probably inspired by a few amazing individual efforts, which actually got some goals on the board and got us home. But yeah, that third quarter, very, very physical from Collingwood.
Interestingly, after half-time, to the other end, 1 point got kicked.
Yeah, it was a bit of a breeze, wasn't it?
There was a little bit, but people at the ground said it wasn't that much, but it obviously was on fields, creating, I think a bit more was going on there. But for me, it was, you could tell our issues with our defence was the loss of Cramery. That head knock she got in the first quarter, as to how integral she is. I mean, we've moved her into the midfield, but by even doing that, you could just see how much we rely on her nous down in the back lines. So Cramery, Randall and Phillips have been nominated for the Players' MVP. So it's the same as what happens within the men's team, is that the players within a team vote for their top three. A few people
Marinoff
have thought
didn't get a nod?
No, but
Jesus.
to me that's actually how highly regarded Kramer is actually held within the playing list, as to how much she's been helping most, because we've got a very young defence and she's been the one. That's why Beck Goddard put her down there, took her out of the midfield and put her down there instead. Randall, when they start tagging her, we put her on the half-back line, and we saw what effect she can have when she really wants to get in the game in that last quarter. I think Marinoff is probably the shoe-in for the rising star. Nobody else has her numbers.
Aren't they all rising stars, though? It's everyone's first season.
It is, but it's the age limit. So it's the younger ones. It's going to be interesting when they name the team as to whether it's between Starcevic and Goddard. Even though Brisbane's gone through undefeated, a lot of people are actually spruiking for Goddard to be the coach because she's having to deal with team split.
No, can't be.
But I think it's got to be Starcevic. I mean, what he's done with Brisbane has been sensational. And the other thing that I've been really impressed with, what was it? See, now I've lost my train of thought.
Well, thank God for that.
Hey, you guys had a very lovely chat about it. I've only just come in at the end to talk about the girls.
I just wanted to mention the ruckman.
Oh, you're so hard done by getting your word in, Nikki.
Totally. I've been watching it more than you guys, and yeah.
Hey, that's not true.
No, that's not true. But the ruckman, I just want to give her a big pat on the back.
Metcalf.
Yeah, did you call her
She's
the beast? Did you? I'll tell you what.
That is her nickname.
She has improved out of sight as the season has gone on, and I thought she reached a pinnacle in her game on the weekend. I just thought it was a beauty.
Clearly, Maddie Clark is schooling her, being the master ruck coach.
Well, there you go. See,
and Sarah Allen, who's her is a second ruck, who's quite young, and that's the best game I've seen her play all season as well.
Yeah, but I love Metcalf's game because it was physical as well.
She is.
She was a bit of a beast, and she actually, but the way she approached the ball, and she got the ball one hell of a lot too. And at the beginning of the season, she wasn't getting it a lot. Now she is getting it a lot.
So can we beat Brisbane?
Well, we only lost by 3 points last time, and we made stupid decisions going up forward. I think we can. I think it's going to be a close game.
Nikki,
Sorry.
I was going to say, I was just going to throw this in though. Didn't they have a lot more scoring shots than we did?
No, not really.
No.
We got rattled by Brisbane. That was my opinion, Nikki. I don't know how you saw it, but I felt like we lost composure under pressure when they got a bit physical. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of teams since that game, and probably, if I remember rightly, it happened a couple of games prior to Brisbane, and it seems to have become...
Carlton Bulldogs were trying it against us as well.
It seems to have become a bit of a tactic against our girls, and I've only seen us lose our composure once or twice, but it seems to be the go-to tactic against us. I wonder whether they can keep their composure up there in a grand final.
Now, this was really interesting in the commentary from Katie Brennan. Sorry, Pete, I just
struggling to get in there, Nikki.
Sorry. She actually just said about playing against Adelaide. She said, particularly if it's like if it turns into a scrap in the midfield, that suits us better because we have a lot bigger bodies than most of the other midfields. And she actually said we're also bullies, which I thought was very interesting coming from Katie Brennan.
Well, and this is where I think Brisbane have had an advantage over some other teams because, as we've talked about a few times during the Women's League season, one of the areas where we can probably hope for improvement with the women is that they get cleaner at ground level and they're able to clear those congested situations better. Because at the moment, a lot of teams can't do that quick handball to clear space, and that plays right into the hands of a team like Brisbane, who right, as you rightly point out, are a lot stronger than most of the other midfields and therefore can sort of bust their way through the packs. We're going to have to be very good at clearing the ball out of congestion if we're going to beat them.
Very good point. And, the master for us, it really is, if Erin Phillips gets her hand on the ball, she does shoot the ball out to a person who's in a much better position and got the advantage of getting the ball quickly into our forward line, which takes away that physical presence that you were talking about. And that's, I think, going to be the key to our game, is if we can actually, as you say, avoid as many of those packs as possible, but if we do get involved in those packs, at least get our 50-50 share so we can move the ball quickly into our forward line, because once you get in there quickly, Perko, she's very, very good at winning more than her share of the ball. So, and that's how we if we're going to win the game, as you say, we've got to at least break even the clearances, maybe win them, and when we do get the ball, give it to a player out in the clear. So it's got to be a clear, good handball. So,
what's your feeling, Nikki? I reckon that it's going to be a bloodbath.
Is there any chance I can actually get a word in here?
No, piss off.
Because I actually wanted to raise a point, and it actually goes to something we were talking about 5 minutes ago. That's how hard it is tonight. But anyway, I just wanted to say, I'm going back to the physicality, and that's how long it takes to actually get a word in tonight. So the physicality, I think that, yes, it has been used, but I thought that on the weekend it was showed fairly conclusively that we were able to absorb that throughout that third quarter. And actually, we did retain our composure and were able to, as I said, absorb that through a quarter and then take a breath at three-quarter time and then kick away in the last. So I think you're right. I think that has been being used, and but I'm pretty confident that if you were Brisbane looking at that, you would think it didn't really work for Collingwood.
The only thing to that, Pete, is, and you're 100% right, is I think that Brisbane are a little bit better side than Collingwood. And if, as I said, if we got to win the game, we can't turn it into a physical slugfest, because they will win the game on those terms. Well, our game is based around on very quick movement of the ball, and if we can do that, that's when we get our goals. And I believe we can win it. As I say, if we at least break even in the midfield and get the ball out cleanly, I believe we can win the game. If it gets into a slugfest of a game, we'll definitely lose it.
I think I can see double team on Perkins, double team on Phillips, some pretty physical stuff on Randall, and I wouldn't mind betting it gets a bit ugly. And I don't see us being strong enough to beat Brisbane because we're not clean enough with our hands. We're quick enough, but we whilst we do use the ball quite well, we're not clean enough to be able to clear those pack situations. And I think Brisbane are going to double team our strengths, as Vuddy Magic in the chat pointed out quite rightly. Our top half a dozen are really good, and then it falls away a bit too quickly. So we're quite easy to cover, I think. And I think
you're right. That's true.
Yeah, I reckon Brisbane will try and cover up our guns. And it could get interesting.
The problem is, though, is I reckon Beck will actually go with similar matchups she did last time, which was Randall on Harris. So if they're trying to double team Randall when she's following Harris around, and Harris did not cope well with that attention at all. And Hatchard did a great job on Frederick Torb. So if those two can do that again, I actually think that Starcevich won't double team Randall because they might actually want to try and keep Harris closer to goal then, but they need her as the link player.
I think they'll try and break that tag, Nick.
Yeah, well, she did it last time. I can see Randall doing it again.
But the point you were making, I think the two keys there, if they double team on Perkins, if they double team on Phillips, and Marinoff is tagged every week, but she's that good that she still gets her share of the play. If they could cut those out the game, then there's no chance of Adelaide winning.
I think probably the last word on the grand final and our chances belong to the coach, Beck Goddard. When she was quoted as saying, "We're not just going to nibble around the edges of mediocrity, we'd rather choke on trying to be great." Well, what great words they were. And I reckon, I tweeted through the week, Beck, can you have a chat to the men? Because I think that encapsulates all that annoys us about the men. And what a fabulous quote it was. I really enjoyed it.
And as Damp Squid pointed out, we don't lose grand finals.
Should be a bumper.
That's very, very true. All right, as we head towards the last third of the show, we probably should give a little bit of time to round 1 versus GWS at Adelaide Oval come Sunday afternoon.
Is there a
32
game on
degrees,
Sunday?
going to be very, very hot, and it will be a big test for the Crows. Walker obviously remains in doubt, as does Rory Sloane, so the leadership group knocked about, and I think there was some whispers around that neither of them will play. How do we see the game going? How do we see our team lining up?
Can I just clear up one thing there? Have it directly from a Crows player that Sloane will be playing, and Walker is still in doubt at this stage and has to pass the test.
Thanks, Macca, for clearing that up.
Walker did do the hour and a half full session on Monday, and he just has to get through, I think, Wednesday's session.
We'd have 3 Sloanes and 4 Walkers. We're still going to get hammered.
I don't buy that.
No, me neither.
Discuss.
You don't get beaten just because there's names on paper. You get beaten or you win by playing the game of football. And
well, what are we sitting here analysing it for then? We haven't seen anyone play Macca, obviously. All we've got to go by is names on paper, and on paper we're going to get smashed.
No, and then you speculate on how they're going to play. So
that's what I just did.
No, you didn't. You just gave us a result.
I'd just like to go to the end. Spare all the heartache.
Let's put a little bit in between. Where do you think Adelaide are going to lose the game then? If you're that adamant,
I think it's obvious, don't you? I think it's. Regardless of whether if Sloaney doesn't play, it will be a shellacking. I think if Sloaney does play, it'll be a little bit closer. But history tells you that it takes him a little while to get back into the swing of things, as you would expect after a facial injury. So I just don't think we're going to be able to control enough of the ball to get enough supply into our forward lines to kick a winning score. And I would expect that GWS's speed and strength is going to be too much for us to handle over 4 quarters.
Yeah, their midfield is down too because they're actually playing their number 2 rookie. They've announced that they will be playing the number 2 draft pick for the year, and so he's in the team. So they are down on strength. There's probably about 3 out of their midfield. So
I think what you're saying.
Yeah, go on, Pete.
I think what you're saying, Phoenix, is that's logical and makes perfect sense. But that the game last year was logical. That would have been logical and made perfect sense. And I thought we were going to get blown away last year as well. And
we nearly got blown away in a quarter.
We destroyed them for 3. I mean, we absolutely pulled their pants down for 3 quarters, and still at the end of the day won by 3 or 4 goals because we pulled their pants down for 3 quarters. So that does give me some faint hope.
No Jared Lyons.
No Jared Lyons, and take out Caniglio from their side from last year, and that's a big loss for them.
That's true. That is a big loss for them.
Yeah, that's a huge loss.
I think there's a case to be made, and I think there's a case to be made purely on the evidence that we saw, last year, where we were able to somehow cobble together a
I love that thing.
Cobble together a midfield, which took them to the cleaners. Let's be honest, for 3 quarters.
Yeah, I agree with you. It isn't as open and shut as Phoenix has made it to be, because our biggest danger, I think, is if they do get on top in the midfield, is the fact that they've got 3 big targets up forward, not 1, not 2, but 3. And I think that if we can break even, our forward line is the best in the competition, and that's with or without Walker playing. And I repeat it, and I think
have Walker playing.
Look, he's a massive advantage to play, but I still think we can play whether he plays or not. I still believe. I think we will win the game.
I'm with Macca.
I think if we get stunned, I'll knock them out or something.
They and Alan's pointed out something. They don't travel well. A few of their players actually did talk about the Adelaide crowd and how loud that was, and they had trouble hearing each other on field.
They've played finals now.
Yeah, but you notice the one final that was the bigger one, they got that little bit rattled as well.
Yeah, but that's all experience.
Yeah, it is. But we know that that's an issue with them. It'll be interesting to see whether that's still an issue.
Look, I think my assessment is based on the fact that I think GWS are almost a shoo-in for the flag this year. That's my personal view. And whereas I still think we're a 5 to 9 team, probably leaning more towards the upper end of that scale, but I still don't think we're a top 4 side. I think GWS are going to have. GWS are going to have a record year.
That's fair enough, but they were ahead of us last year too. Don't forget, and that showed in the finals. They were a better side than we were in the finals. So there was a gap between the team last year as well, and yet, as I say, we somehow found a way. And
yeah,
so,
but that was round 4, Pete, that we played them. I mean, they were
really
was
that round 4?
And this is round 1.
Yeah, but what Pete's saying is that they showed at the end of the year that they were a little bit ahead of us, and yet we still found a way. Well, we played them in round 4 of that season, and they went on. And it was towards the end of the season that they seemed to put it all together, and after falling out of the top 4, they came back in it, and nearly made it to a grand final.
Well, this might be a surprise for you, but they haven't played for quite a few months either. So they're going to start from round 1 as the same as we are. So I
don't know what your point is, Macca. I'm saying that they've developed as a team. They've overcome some hurdles. They've gained some experience. They've played in finals. All those things that we're talking about that were their Achilles heels when we played them last time, playing against in front of big crowds and all the rest of it. I don't think it's going to bother them this year. And I reckon they were pretty...
Phoenix, try round 10,
well,
not
still,
round 4. That was Sydney.
Sydney round 4, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was still round 10. It's still first half of the season. They came good in the second half of the season.
Well, you're getting a bit more flexible with your story, but I think you're just writing us off a little bit too easy, I think.
Okay. We'll see.
I think they deserve to start favourites, and as I said, you've got all logic in your argument, and there's no doubt they deserve to start favourites. But bloody hell, I don't know that we can just be written off out of hand because. I think we've got the capacity to pull together and play well at Adelaide Oval. And when I looked at that game in round 10 last year, and I'd love to hear. You might want to dig out audio of what our preview was for that game, but I'm sure what we would have talked about is what we were talking about now, and that's that we're going to get smashed in the midfield. They've got much more talent in the midfield. They've got players at both ends, and we would have gone on with the same rationale. And yet, for 3 quarters, seriously, I mean, I think we were 8 goals up at 3/4 time. I mean, it was a smashing.
It was 7 goals it was, I think.
7 goals up.
We had Thompson, Jared Lyons and Rory Sloane playing, plus I think Brad Crouch was back. So none of those players, possibly Sloane, but none of those players will be in our midfield.
Okay, so who got the most disposals for us that game?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Atkins.
Matt Crouch or Atkins?
Atkins got 28. Smith had 26. Thompson only had 22. Douglas had 20. Talia had 20. Lyons had 20.
I don't know what your point is. The point is you can't deny that our midfield is weaker than it was when we played them last.
Only marginally.
Marginally, I just pointed out 4 players.
My point is you're saying that our midfield's going to get smashed. So our highest disposal getter was Atkins at 28. We've said what we've seen in the JLT, the step he's made up. He's gone to another level. So you think he's not going to keep that level against GWS?
It's only one player.
Yeah, but he's one player that's in that midfield you're saying we're going to get smashed by.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one that
you're trying to beat me over the head with logic. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Fair enough. Okay.
Like, we could all come up with a scenario that makes sense. I feel like we're not going to be able to keep up with them.
Look,
they'd won 6 games leading into that game against us, by the way, as well.
What was that, sorry?
They'd won 6 games.
Okay.
Leading into the game against us. So they had some pretty damn good form. Yes, they were playing against Saints, who we knew weren't too bad. They played against the Suns. They beat the Dockers over in Perth.
It was the biggest crowd they'd ever played in front of.
Yep, it was.
And we were a genuine contender. We were playing well. I think we were 5-3 or 5-4 or something like that. But we'd had some tough losses, if you remember. So we were up and about. They probably didn't put it all together until the last quarter, and when they did put it together in the last quarter, they absolutely belted us then too. I don't think they're going to have... They did. Yeah, we ended up losing by 3 goals. We were up by 7 or 8 at three-quarter time, Macca, and they came home with a wet sail. Yeah,
but any coach worth his salt will tell you, in any game, the team that loses will have one good quarter. And no,
that's all happening tonight.
No, that's just...
Come
that
on.
Is,
no, I think that was a very apt sound effect there, Pete.
But I'm seriously, that is absolutely right, because you have a look at every game that's played. There's usually, even in a thrashing, one side will have the side that gets thrashed will have at least one respectable or good quarter.
Mate. Go back and watch that tape. You go back and watch that tape.
I remember. I was there. I remember.
No, but you're an old man. You need a little bit of memory jogging. Go back and look at the tape and watch how they run away from us in waves in that last quarter.
But of course, you're right.
But of course, the one thing about age, it brings wisdom. You see, because
it hasn't worked for me.
No, me neither.
You just remember the fact that we did belt them for 3 quarters.
Yeah. Shall we have a look at team composition? Shall we just have let's cut it there. We're running sort of short of time. So how about we just have a quick talk about who do we think is going to be selected? How do we think our team's going to line up so that we can achieve this result, which would be an upset, no question.
You know, if it all depends on whether Walker plays or not. If Walker plays, our forward line will be as it always is. If it isn't, then I think that's Menzel's big chance. He gets a game, and McGovern goes to... And McGovern goes to centre. Don't put me off, Fanny. McGovern goes to centre half forward. Sloane will play, and I think
maybe Gov needs to get the runs again because that really worked against Brisbane.
And I think the midfield is obvious what that will be. The back line's interesting one, and that's whether Lever will play. Cheney definitely won't be playing, and that means that one of Kelly or Otten will play. And as we spoke last week, Phoenix and I did agree on something. We agreed that they're not interchangeable players. Otten takes the third tall, and Kelly, he goes more against a conventional half-forward flanker.
Would you play Lever?
Yeah, I would. I definitely would.
No, I wouldn't.
I would play Lever because... he's capable of doing something quite spectacular. Although I will say...
on the back of no pre-season, though, Macca. I don't know about that.
No, but look, you've raised a good point. And the other thing, too, is the fact is that Otten has been in outstanding form, actually. So it wouldn't be too much of a loss to play Otten. And I think the guy deserves a break. Kelly, I think, will definitely take Cheney's spot. And then it's a question of Otten or Lever. Lever says he's good to go. He's on the radio tonight, and he says he's good to go. Well, of course he'll say that. Yeah, I know. I don't know. The only 2 I know about is the fact is Sloane definitely to play, and Walker has to pass the test. That's all I know about that. But that's how I see the side, in the sense that it's very much as it always is, with the exception of Walker's out, Menzel's in.
Why is Menzel in?
Because he'll go to the forward pocket, and McGovern goes to centre half forward. It's to try and keep as close a structure as possible to what we normally have.
And he's been trying really hard, Frank. He's been trying really hard.
Yeah, but if you're going to play like for like, I reckon you'd almost pick Jono Beach, wouldn't you?
Beach isn't ready.
Hasn't he come back from that calf?
Yeah, but he's had no... If you're not going to play Lever on nothing, then you're not going to play Beach with the calf.
Definitely not.
Beach has had a full pre-season. Lever's had a 5 or 6 week hamstring, hasn't he?
I think Deer would come in instead.
I'd have Greenwood ahead of Menzel and I think that Greenwood played very much that role last weekend.
I'd have Cam Ellis-Yolman ahead of Menzel.
where he ran for where he played quite a bit of time up forward. He was the pressuring player, tackling hard, and a brilliant tackling player, and also then moved into the midfield and gave us a big body at the clearances. So for me, and we'll know that I think there's still some time to upgrade a rookie if it's a long-term injury. So we'll know ahead of time whether Greenwood gets in. But he would be if you're talking about
Greenwood's a good call.
Who would be playing that role as the player that is the negating forward with a bit of midfield time, then for me, Greenwood every day of the week.
Yeah, I'm just picking up on a line that the coach was talking about, and he said that I heard him say that he was very pleased with what Menzel had done in the pre-season and had done what he'd been asked to do.
Well, I hope he was just being nice.
Well, perhaps he didn't ask him to do much. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's right. PJ mentions Riley Knight in the chat, and I think that's an interesting one.
He won't play. He won't.
I wouldn't have thought so, but he's one that we certainly expected to fill a bit of a void in that midfield rotation, and I guess that leaves us with D-Mac in for another 15 games this year.
D-Mac will be playing.
Curly Hampton will play in the midfield, and he thoroughly deserves that spot. And we should say congratulations to Curly,
definitely.
because he will debut.
Yep.
He will debut in his first league game for the Crows on Sunday. No question about that. His pre-season form has been absolutely outstanding, and he has won himself a place in that midfield through diligence, hard work, a fantastic pre-season, and he's really brought something to the clearances. A big body, a lot of skill, and a lot of heart. And so I was a very, very vocal critic of Curly last year, and I tip my hat and I offer him my heartiest congratulations. And I think he certainly, in his current form, will add something for us.
Yeah, well, he takes the place of Lyons, and you know, Phoenix pointed out we're down Lyons. Well, Curtly Hampton is a better player than Lyons, and to me is a plus in the side.
I wonder who takes Scott's spot. I think the biggest revelation out of all of that is that apparently when we're doing podcasts, Pete wears a hat.
Thank you very much.
Oh, what was that?
It kind of begs the question: what sort of hat?
Come on, and whether he's wearing anything else. That's what I'd like to know.
I think he's moving towards the fact that I'm an arse hat, and I think that's really what it is.
I wasn't, but now that you mention it.
As we stroke on the hour, well, I shouldn't really. Do I say we stroke on the hour? No. As it strikes 10, we should really allow Nikki
or
to.
9:30 here.
We should allow Nikki to cock womble on before we close the show.
Crikey.
Oh, come on!
It's here.
What's going on?
It's just very quiet. I actually played it last time while you were talking, Pete. It seemed appropriate.
Where'd it go?
It's just very quiet. Anyway, go on.
Not that one. I want the Cockwomble song.
Oh my god, it was playing. It was just a bit quiet.
I know. That's very annoying. I wanted it a bit louder. I think there's only one Cockwomble this week, and it is the groundskeeper at the Gabba.
Is it though? Is it the groundskeeper?
Yes, because he did that deliberately. Because they knew 2 weeks ago that they needed that venue for that game.
But who's his boss?
And he decided he didn't want that to happen because the cricket in November is way more important.
But who's his boss?
He's the boss there. He's the groundskeeper.
He's a lawnmower man.
Yeah, but he did give the AFL assurances that the ground would be in pristine condition for the game.
So he was aware of the game.
He was aware of the game, in fact, and
then he decided to sow the grass.
And they checked with him to whether to make sure that the ground would be in appropriate conditions because they had after the Adele concert there, and he gave them an absolute cast iron assurance that it would be ready. And then he's done what he's done. I can't quite work it out.
Well,
as Gil said, it's either incompetence or it was calculated.
Well, the question remains, like, let's say, for example, this happened in Adelaide. Say the game was going to be played in Adelaide, and the Adelaide Oval groundsman, after the Adele concert, did the same sort of thing. would it be the SMA's responsibility, or is it the AFL as the venue operator on the day, or is it the SACA because it's still cricket season? I mean, who's accountable? Who's his boss?
Well, the AFL are accountable to themselves because they own Brisbane, don't they?
No, but they don't own the Gabba.
They don't own the Gabba. So it is the stadium management there. And Brownie did actually mention that the AFL has now discovered what Brisbane has known for a very long time, in that even though it's their home ground, they are allowed only very, very limited access. And even then, it's incredibly hard to try and get out on the ground. And basically, the Gabba don't really like football being played there.
Well, they mightn't like it too much when the AFL say stuff that and Brisbane decide to share Gold Coast ground.
That might be the way they have to go if this is the case of what they're doing.
Why wouldn't they? They own Metricon, don't they?
Well, they must. But they
I'm
must.
pretty sure they own Metricon. That's Southport's old oval, isn't it?
Well, they'd have to because they own Gold Coast as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Gabba can not like AFL as much as they like until they lose all the revenue. But surely someone is overseeing that. I mean, it seems ridiculous to me that, if Brisbane are struggling for access at the Gabba, Brisbane have been in the competition long enough now that someone should have known that. And, on top of that, surely someone oversees the ground preparation. The curator's got to have a boss.
Well, he'd be lucky to have a job if he's working for me if he did that deliberately.
Well,
from what has been said, apparently that particular curator has a lot of clout up there.
Well.
All right, so we have a winner?
Yeah.
The sole nominee?
Well, that or Jordan De Goey.
No, I think you've got it there.
The lawnmower man.
Yeah, lawnmower man for sure.
Who's keeping everything locked up so cameras can't get in to actually have a look. Although I do have to love that one of the Lions players, I'm trying to remember his name, but he actually, because they have been trading around, he got up and he took a photo of it looking actually fairly nice and green and pretty good condition.
What's wrong with the media up there? Don't they have drones up in Brisbane? Just fly a drone over the thing.
I was going to make that very same point. You think automatically a drone would be going over, but
maybe be out there with a shotgun and shoot it down, or just get a wedgie because they like attacking drones.
But if you are up in Brisbane, it really is.
There it is. Thank you, PJ. Josh Walker.
There's very little interest in AFL football up there.
Yeah.
It's still very much a rugby state, and if you go up there and if you're doing up there on business or if you're up there on holidays and you talk to the locals, some of them know about the football team, some of them don't, and not many people really care.
Oh, well, I mean, that's easy fix. Just take the revenue away from the Gabba and see how that goes.
They wouldn't have been having a lot of revenue the past couple of years from the Lions, though, to be fair.
No, but it's still ground hire and all the rest of it. The AFL would be paying a fee.
Yeah.
You're right. They'll be making money.
They don't pay any league games there, do they? They play at Suncorp, don't they, up there?
Yeah, I think it's Suncorp.
Yep, so leave the Gabba for 5 games of cricket a year and see how that goes.
You're dead right. I mean, they would be getting money out of the AFL for the rights to play there.
Right, so we definitely have a winner there. That probably brings us to a bit over the hour mark and the close of the show. Any saved rounds, as we like to say at work?
No. I'm shooting blanks, Pete.
I give up tonight.
I couldn't stop it once I started.
We're spent.
How long have you been in that condition, Phoenix?
About 6 years, actually.
Dear oh dear. All right. I think that's probably a good time as any to wind up to the panel. Thank you very much for your participation tonight, McAfee and Nikki. Always great to have you along and getting your thoughts.
Now, can I do the ad, Pete? Sorry to
please do our ad for us, mate.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Please do.
Don't forget, we'll have our preview show on Thursday night, our first one for the season. Scorpus will be back, and I think it's me joining him on Thursday night, which will be a treat. So you might be watching the crappy Carlton-Richmond game, but tune in at 7:30 Central Time, and we'll have the teams, and we'll have a little bit of a chat just for 40 minutes or so. We'll have our Sunday wrap show on Sunday evening, as per usual, and all things being equal, Peter, we will be having our halftime rant show. All things being... So keep an eye on Twitter, because if it actually gets up, then I'll tweet out that we're running for half an hour. We'll just give it a go and see how it goes. And you can tweet us, you can Skype us, you can Facebook us, you can chat us on here. You can do whatever you like for during halftime. So we'll give that a crack, and we'll see how that goes off. Follow us on Twitter at AFL CrowCast. Follow us on Facebook, AFL CrowCast. And I can't think of anything else. That's it.
Beautiful. All right, we'll sign out. Thanks very much for everyone for listening, and we look forward to catching you on Thursday for the preview show, and of course TNL next Tuesday night.
Shit.
Eve, thanks very much.
Yeah, see you later.
Bye.
Yeah. Night all.